Why do you think that I'm asking you about sleep when I'm supposed to be talking about light?
You want to bring us out of the dark.
There you go. I'm gonna take you out of the dark. I am going to take you out of the dark. Those lights are going to take you out of the dark. You're also going to learn some things that are going to take you out of the dark with your perceptions about sleep and how important that is for your life. So we're going to talk a little bit about what these lights are going to do for you here at work. And then we're going to talk about how you can control your light at home, because light science and sleep science have evolved basically at the same time. And now we know what happens when you sleep. We know how light affects you in ways that we didn't know before. So anybody, can you give me your core values? There's a prize for this. It's probably going to come from one of those drink machines, but at least there's a prize for the core values at Carl Star. Anybody? Come on now. Come on now. I know there's a manager in here that's wondering the same thing. Why aren't you guys coming up with the core values? Safety is a big one, and safety comes under a lot of these others. And you're going to see how light and sleep and how you regulate sleep at home is going to not only make you safer at work, helps you make better decisions, it's going to help you with your kids. How many of y'all have kids? Anybody? A lot of kids in here. These kids are getting screwed up by the light we're looking at. 90% of our lives are now spent indoor. That wasn't the case before. We've only had electric light for 125 years, and so since the dawn of time, we've had a different light source when we're active and productive, right? What was it? It was daylight. Since the dawn of time, when we're chilling out, we're relaxing, we're at home, what are we doing? We're looking at fire. Two very different types of light, and I'm going to go into that for a second. So now, the Carl Star values. A, customers speak, we listen. B, best team wins. Your team in this warehouse is going to be better when those lights go up. C, continuous improvement is our way of life, right? You got to get better every day. There's a Japanese principle called Kaizen, and the Japanese have used this for years to get better at making stuff. And it's small improvements over a long period of time make a huge difference. I used to tell my kids, listen, you can ruin your life in a minute. You drive drunk, kill somebody, your life is screwed, right? That gives you a lot of difficulty. But it takes a lifetime to build a good life, right? So small improvements over a long period of time make a huge difference. These lights are going to make a big jump for you pretty quick. Creativity defines our future. When you have the proper sleep and the proper lights at work, in your work environment, whether you work outside or inside, that increases your creativity. Proven, study after study. And then creating sustainable value is your last one. So safety is part of all of those, and we're going to show you how those lights are going to do that. Why do you think sleep is important, right? Do you feel better in the morning when you get sleep? And you feel crappy when you don't, right? We've all had hangovers. Well, a few of us have. Some of us more than others. But you can't get quality sleep when you're hungover. You know, you don't feel good the next day. It robs you of that quality sleep. So let's get into this. I'll tell you what we're going to do. So here, do you like the old lights that you have now? How many prefer those old lights? Nobody. Not a single hand went up. And why? Dark. You go to work and you feel good. You're out in the sunlight, and now you get into the office, and you get into the warehouse, and now you don't feel as good, right? Because your eye knows what kind of light you're looking at. Since the dawn of time, since the good Lord put us on this earth, we've been looking at daylight as our active, productive light source. These lights in here and all the technology up until now did not have any daylight in it. So Carl Star cares about you. Carl Star cares about your health. They paid a premium to get these kind of lights that are going to make you guys more productive at work, feel better, and they paid for me to come in here and talk to you about how light is going to affect you at home and what you can do to change your lights at home so that you get that same outcome. So 90% of our lives are spent indoors. That didn't used to be the case, right? You come to work, that's 8 hours a day. You're in your house the rest, and you get out maybe, an hour or two a day. 90% of our lives are spent indoors. We're not ready for how this thing is going to affect us over time. It affects your health, your productivity, your attention, disease. You're more likely to get disease if you don't sleep enough. Now, you might be a healthy guy back there that only sleeps 2 hours a night, but that lack of sleep affects disease. It affects weight gain, right? They always talk about how we got an obesity epidemic in this country. And a lot of that is related to the light we see before we go to sleep and how deep we're sleeping because we're wrecking our deep sleep. It affects your creativity and your decision making. I saw a rail out here that had been run into, right? Big old yellow rail, tough to miss. Somebody rammed that rail, right? I know it wasn't anybody in this. It's always second or third shift, right? Just blame them. So light can make you sleepy or light can make you awake. Every light out there is warm. It's a warm light, just like those old incandescents we have. Now the HIDs, the lights, some of those lights out there, they start out with a little bit of alerting component in it, and then it drops off as they age. These lights that you're getting aren't going to do that. And we're going to put in lights that are going to make you more and more alert. So here's what happens. I'm not going to get too technical. Everybody knows what a retina is, right? You know what a retina is? It's that group of cells at the back end of your eyeball that takes the light that comes through the lens that you're looking at and it sends it into your brain. What they just discovered about 12 years ago is that 2% of those nerves coming out of that light, or coming out of that eye, coming out of that retina, have nothing to do with light. They go into another part of your body that 14 universities said controls or influences every physiologic function, metabolic function, thinking function. The Nobel Prize in Medicine was just awarded to the team that uncovered that every cell in your body has a sleep and wake cycle. And you can't lie to it because it knows when you're not getting enough sleep. It knows when you're not getting enough rest and you're restoring your body. All the sports teams right now have a sleep specialist on board. Why is that? They get better muscle repair, they're more alert, they have faster reaction times, everything fits in that. Every single sports team that you're watching on TV has a sleep specialist, and they need it. So it's going into your brain and then sending a signal out. Now, how many of you have heard of melatonin, right? And you always hear melatonin makes you go to sleep. Study just came out 2 weeks ago that showed that melatonin is like the starter in your car. It is not keeping you asleep. It's not the signal that tells all your cells what to do. It's just the starter. And then the engine starts going. So you keep track of all of those cells, keep track of your natural sleep and wake cycle. You have a 23 and a half, 24-hour sleep and wake cycle. You violate that, it has consequences. So, 2 types of light. This kind of light, fire, since the dawn of time, makes you want to go to sleep. This kind of light tells your brain it's daylight, it's time to work, it's time to be active, it's time to be productive, it's time to go fishing, it's time to whatever you want to do, it's time to be alert, creative, and active. And that kind of light is available in the lights that we have programmed for you that are LED coming into this facility right now. So let me just show you, don't get too obsessed with how complicated this is. Light is divided into a spectrum, right? You've seen a rainbow. And the old thing we learned in grade school was Roy G. Biv, right? Red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, violet. And that's the visible light spectrum. That's the light that you see. So what your eye is sensitive to is a very, very narrow slice of light, and it's called circadian input. This light, this narrow slice, is available plenty in daylight, right? This is exactly what daylight looks like at noon. And you feel alert, active, and nobody's falling asleep in my presentation if we were outside, right? And a few people dozing right now. That's okay. So this slice is available in daylight. It's available in specially configured LEDs. Where do you not see it? Incandescent. That's usually what most people have at home. Where do you not see it? Fluorescent. That's what a lot of these are out here. Where do you not see it? Metal halide. That's what a lot of these lights are out here. So you've been working in a light environment that has told your body it's time to chill. And you got to work. You got to work. You got to make your hourly wage. You got to be productive. You got to make sure your coworkers aren't carrying your load because you're tired, and here you are coming in here, not enough sleep out there, and then you come into work and the lights, you got the starter going. And the starter, melatonin, doesn't see this, it doesn't see this, it doesn't see that, and it says, it's sleepy time, just like some of you are doing right now. So, your eyes are sensitive to that narrow slice of light. It's only found in those three places. You got daylight, you got special LEDs, and LEDs are almost infinitely customizable, so that's the kind of lights we're putting in, and you've got screens. What kind of screens am I talking about? How many brought your phone? All right, we're going to get those phones out later, and I'm going to show you how those phones are screwing you up, how those phones are screwing up your sleep. So, we're going to take care of your work lighting. We're going to make these lights keep you alert when you're at work, but now you got to go out and figure out how you're doing it at home so you can stay healthy at home, so you can keep your kids healthy, so you can keep your kids active and productive at school, right? They're going to fall behind at school if they're not getting enough sleep. When I was a kid, I'm older than dirt. Rocks are younger than me, right? But when I was a kid, the average kid slept 9 hours, 9.5 hours a night. What is the average today? 6.25. That's average. So, when it's time to be awake, that slice of light is good. It's keeping you alert, active, creative, productive. When it's time to go to sleep, that slice is bad. So when you're looking at your screen within 2 hours of going to bed, that includes TVs, iPads, these phones that are like leeches on our body. It includes all of that, and they're telling you to wake up. But it's time to go to bed, and you're on this cycle. So now you've told the cells in your body, time to wake up. So when do you finally fall asleep? When you're freaking exhausted. When you wake up, what happens? Your body says, I didn't get enough sleep. Your body says, hey, I got to have some carbs and caffeine. Why do y'all like these energy drinks? Why is the Mountain Dew always the first thing to go? Because it was gone last time I came here because I needed some. Right? That caffeine is what your body's craving when you didn't get enough deep sleep the night before. So, what happens when you sleep? Everything good. Everything good that happens in your body happens when you sleep. Muscle repair, one of the reasons the sports teams have gone to it. Long-term memories are created. Your brain remembers this meeting, and when you go to bed at night, your brain flushes away the things it doesn't need to remember, like the speaker was wearing a blue shirt, or and it's going to remember the things you need to remember. That only happens in deep sleep. You don't get that deep sleep at the same level when you're exposed to the wrong light before going to bed. It controls your heart rate. It controls your blood pressure. Regulates your insulin production. If you work third shift, we're going to get into some of these statistics in a minute. So third shift workers, 96% more likely to be obese. Greater likelihood of diabetes. Greater likelihood of breast cancer. Third shift nurses, okay? Third shift nurses, now they're healthy, right? Harvard study said third shift nurses have 58% higher breast cancer. That is obviously statistically significant, right? You know, you can't believe how many third shift nurses I've talked to, or people who had relatives who were third shift nurses who said, yeah, my mom got breast cancer, my dad got breast cancer, they were a third shift nurse. So all this is real recent research, right? So now Harvard says, hey, let's give them good exercise, good diet, high fiber, all the things I don't do. And they said the risk factors stayed exactly the same, still a 58% elevation. Then they said, let's regulate their light. What happened? Any guesses? Dropped to baseline, no elevation. So you've eliminated that risk on third shift if you regulate your light. So you can see how important that is when we're talking about sleep and light. Look, we're already, my 2-hour man's gone, I knew it. So you produce your disease-fighting cells. You produce your disease-fighting cells. So you talk about cancer, your disease-fighting cells are your T cells, TH cells, your N killer cells they're called. They go out and they find that cell that's abnormal, that cancer cell, and they come out and they kill it, right? You don't produce them unless you have delta sleep. Then you've got higher creativity, better decision making. Everything good that happens to your body happens during deep sleep. So let's talk about the stages of sleep, and you can figure out which ones you're cutting out, right? If you're not getting enough sleep, you need 5 cycles. Sleep cycles are 90 minutes, right? Sleep cycles are 90 minutes. It takes you about 20 minutes to get there. How many of you fall asleep in 5 minutes or less? That is an indication you are not getting enough sleep. That is a clear indication you're not getting enough sleep. And I fall asleep I'm quick. But now that I'm getting better sleep, I'm not falling asleep in 5 minutes or less. That shows your body's exhausted. The melatonin kicks in. We got to get this sucker to sleep because he's not getting enough sleep, right? So it runs in these 90-minute cycles, and they do different things, okay? The first one, you start with your first 90-minute cycle. You got light sleep. It transitions you. Your muscle systems start to slow. By the way, I stole this off some website called Delta Sleep, and that's what it's called. It's called Delta Sleep, Delta Sleeper. So if anybody has any copyright issues in here, I know you guys have never done anything illegal, but. Number 2, the second one that happens is your respiration starts to slow. You now got another 90 minutes. You start to breathe slowly. Your heart rate goes down. Your body starts to cool. It's called core body temperature. The best temperature, by the way, to sleep in is 65 degrees. Pull up your covers. That's why you sleep better in the winter. That's why you sleep better when you're camping. 65 degrees is your best sleep temp. Now you can cover up in your blankets, but your body needs to drop that temperature for you to sleep well. Why do you not sleep well when you're outside and it's super hot and you're trying to camp and that sleeping bag's sticking to you? Your body temperature can't drop and you're not getting that deep sleep. Third stage, deep sleep starts. This is when the good stuff happens. So we've already gone through 4, they're an hour and a half each, so 3.5 hours to get to sleep. 3.5 hours, you've just covered this. Now you slow your brain starts to slow down. Your brain waves start to get deep sleep starts, slow steady brain waves with bursts of activity. So it's slow and steady and then boom, you get a dream or something else happens. Number 4, deep sleep continues. Now your body starts to repair. A lot of you aren't getting this. Your body starts to say, hey, I got to fix this part. I've been walking too long. My knees are shot. And it starts to fix your body, starts to fix your joints, starts to fight disease. Your immune system kicks in. Your maintenance, what does it need to do in the body? And then number 5, which I know very few people get, is when you have REM sleep. You've heard of REM sleep? REM sleep is at the tail end. How many of you remember your dreams? Don't talk about what types of dreams. We're not going to cover that in this session. If you remember your dreams, you're more likely getting to rapid eye movement. You're more likely getting to the point where you've got that dream sleep that you wake up from and now you got it, right? You're not completely exhausted where you're waking up and starting that coffee machine before you even walk out. So what happens when you don't sleep? Everything bad. We talked about the nurses with breast cancer rates. We talked about the 96% more likely to be obese. Higher risk of heart attack, stroke. You crave carbs and caffeine. So how many of you have kids or know somebody who's on ADD meds? Anybody? Right? Tons. Probably a few of you that are in here. So what happens is it takes a while for that to metabolize. It takes a while for your body to burn that off, and it negatively affects your sleep. So it takes longer to fall asleep. I got 6 kids. I don't get applause for that? Thank you. Well, we adopted 2. So we had 3 of our own, then adopted 2, then and had our last. But usually what I tell people is, especially if I'm talking to some woman, I'll say, well, you've seen me. How could she resist? Right? 2 of those kids are on ADD meds. They had horrible sleep, horrible time sleeping. So now it's stunted them going on. You need to make sure when the right light is applied in schools, when the right light you're controlling that light input to your child at home, you're making sure they're not using their phone within 2 hours of going to bed. I know it's a bear being a parent, right? I know what it's like. I got good kids, I got bad kids. I'll give you some of the bad ones if you ever want them. It's a bear, but you have those kids, you have that responsibility. You got to start locking down those phones. You got to put something on there where you control it, and you got to put something on there that takes out that blue light. Apple is on board. They've got a blue light reduction in there now. It's not perfect. Droids, Samsung has it built in, and if you don't have it, you're going to be able to send me an email later, and I'll shoot you a link where you're going to be able to get an app for your phone that'll pull out that blue light within 2 hours of going to bed. You look at that blue light within 2 hours of going to bed. You look at that screen within 2 hours of going to bed. What happens to you? Instead of getting these nice, deep delta peaks, you get these little stumpy things. So what happens to a nurse, right? These nurses that are working third shift. Anybody who works third shift, y'all stay up late on the weekend, right? Everybody stays up a little bit later on the weekend. That screws up your sleep and wake cycle too. So these nurses, they're in melatonin-producing lights all their work shift, and then they drive out into the sunlight. That's like a big screen, right? A lot of blue, and that shuts off their melatonin. And then they go home and they try to go to sleep, and there's a tiny little bit of what we call blue-enriched light, a tiny little bit of that light coming through the curtains. You have to sleep in complete darkness when you're trying to sleep. It's easy at night. It's really hard during the day. Average third shift nurse, how long does she sleep? Any ideas?
4 hours.
5 hours. They sleep average third shift nurse sleeps 5 hours, and there's a ton of them that are down to 4 hours, right? And that's what's killing them off. It's horrible for them. So the effects of bad sleep, accidents at work. Third shift has 2/3 of all manufacturing errors. Third shift at a hospital, 2/3 of all medical errors. Y'all get hurt? Don't go to the hospital at night. You wait till the morning, right? Poor alertness and concentration. That's what happened to that person who ran into that rail back there. Impaired problem solving. You're not as smart. How do you think this is affecting your kids? How is this affecting you when you don't get enough sleep? Heart disease. And now we get to a good one. Reduced sex drive, right? Anybody want that? You ever heard those ED ads? Why is that little blue pill making a comeback? Right? I don't really feel like it. And everybody wants more of that. Weight gain. Makes you older. Premature aging. Depression. How many of y'all have seen all those? The pharmaceutical industry is going to hate what we're doing in lighting because we're going to cut down their drug use. 20% less pain meds. You got any kind of pain med you're taking? 20% less pain meds to achieve the same level of comfort when your circadian rhythm, your sleep and wake cycles are set correctly. It's amazing the difference it makes. Everything is included. So, good sleep, you get better energy, creativity, lowered stress. Everybody's always stressed out. I'm always stressed out. I'm working too hard. I'm stressed out. Why? You're not getting enough sleep. Weight loss improves your mood. Everybody wants to be happier, right? I saw the Daily Bread back there. I'm glad somebody put it out because I needed it to level out my projector. But, you know, the joy of the Lord. We need to be joyful. We're called to be happy. You're not called to be miserable, right? Bad sleep, anxiety. I'm anxious. I'm worried all the time. Higher risk of obesity. We've covered a lot of these. Lack of concentration. Higher blood pressure. You may be on blood pressure meds. It might be related to your sleep. So, I got, now we're time for show and tell. No, this is not a restraining device for little people. This, you can... This is for your eyes. You can buy this at Bed Bath & Beyond. When you're trying to sleep in complete darkness, let me tell you, these babies work. And they bulb out over your eyelashes, so your eyelashes aren't excuse me, your eyelashes aren't bubbling up against them and brushing them and keeping you awake. So it makes a huge difference. So what are you going to do at home? You're going to have a cool room. Basement if you got it. We're down south, so you don't have as many basements. No LEDs within 2 hours of going to bed. And here's the reason why. And I didn't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but if you have that slice of light, it just takes a tiny bit of it to disrupt your sleep. LEDs have a tiny bit of it. So even your screen that you're looking at home, and you can buy glasses that'll take that out. Blue blockers are not the best, but you get the concept. you need, if 5% of your light that's coming into your eye, just 5% is blue, which all LEDs have, if 5% that's coming into your eyes is blue, it's going to wake you up. It's going to disrupt your sleep. So don't use LEDs within 2 hours of going to bed, or turn on an incandescent or a fluorescent when you're starting to go to bed, and preferably low Kelvin. So Kelvin is the way we measure light. The lower is the warmer, like 2700 Kelvin would be like an incandescent. 6500 Kelvin is daylight. 5500 and higher is actually daylight, but 65 is really, really blue. You've seen those blue lights? And your eye is more sensitive to the color of light, not only for sleep and wake cycles, but for visibility. You're going to find that you're going to see things a lot better when those lights go in, not just because it's brighter, but your eye is sensitive to that blue light. I don't need my readers outside. I need them inside to be able to read. And the reason is because your eye dilates when it doesn't see blue light, because you're looking at fire technically, and it constricts when it does see that blue light. So pull out your phones. How many of you, if you don't have them, that's fine, you'll remember. Power them up. You probably never had a speaker come and say, take out your phones. How many of you have Apple? Okay, go to your settings, and then go to display and brightness. When you go to display and brightness, you're going to see something called night shift. Click on night shift. Open up night shift and slide that bar to the warmest part you can find. As warm as you can get in Apple. And again, it's LED, it's still got blue in there, but you want less within 2 hours of going to bed. So you've all got it slid over, right? So when you get that slid over, now you can either make it schedule, you can automatically schedule it in an Apple iPhone or an iPod or iPad, or you can manually do it. My bedtimes change a lot, so I do it manually, but just click that button to make it turn on and off. Can you see the difference in your screen when you do that? Everybody got that? It looks a little orange. It looks a little bit, it's warmer, it's redder. You'll see it better when you're at home. By the way, when is the best time physiologically for your body to see that blue light? In the morning. Remember Ben Franklin said, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise? It's true. Physiologically, that's what happens to your body. Your body wakes up and jump starts the earlier you see that light. It is blue, blue, blue in that blue morning sky. So try to get out in the morning is really healthy for you. So how many of you have droids? Hold up your droids. Any Samsungs in here? We got a couple Samsungs. So in Samsung, pull down that menu. You can go into settings, but pull down that menu from the top. And you're going to see, here's my screen. And it's not the dimness, by the way. A lot of people think, oh, I just need to make it dimmer. No, because of that 5% rule. Right? You got to have less than 5% blue light. So you're going to go in here and you're going to go under blue light filter. Just click on blue light filter. And you can see how it turned orange, turned red. Right? So here's a regular screen. This is 6500 Kelvin. Remember I told you daylight starts at 5500, 5000. This is 6500, deep into blue. So you press on that button, takes out the blue. Most of it. You still got more than 5%, so it's still screwing you up, but not as bad, right? So you're going to change your phones, okay? You can do that smart TVs, you can do it laptops, you can do the whole thing. So here's some other things that you're going to need to look at. It's better to have a consistent daily schedule. And I know that screws you up on the weekends, but you have that consistent daily schedule, you'll feel more alert, creative, active, and healthy. Second of all, you reduce your caffeine intake. It takes about 8-9 hours for that caffeine to get out of your body. You need to stop probably at noon caffeine because it'll screw up your sleep. I know that's hard for some of y'all, especially the Mountain Dew guy. Turn off the computer or television unless you have a smart TV that'll take out the red, or unless you put on glasses. And again, if y'all send me an email, I'll shoot you back a list of things and places where you can buy them. Okay, engage in regular exercise. Last time I worked out was in the 80s, and I'm not talking degrees, right? It's been a while. So I'm not saying I do these things. I'm a hypocrite. Limit your beverage consumption before you go to bed so you're not getting up to go to pee. Keep your bedroom dark and quiet, and I mean dark. You got to keep it, put those shades on your eyes. Don't use night lights, unless those of you who have elderly parents. There's a $20, $30 kit that I'm going to show you where to get, where this is what I did for my mom. My mom's 90 years old. What's the number one thing that is what's called a comorbidity factor? It doesn't cause death, but it leads to death in the elderly. It's falls. When do most falls happen for the elderly? Happens at night. They get up to go to the bathroom, they flip on the light, and then they cut off that light. They do their business, cut off that light, and they walk back to their bed, and they can't see anything because you've gone from bright light to darkness, and they end up falling, breaking a hip, and then they go to the nursing home, and then they die, right? So what I did for my mom, it's a $30 kit, it's nothing, is we got motion sensors on each side of the bed. She puts her feet over the side of the bed. It lights up the floor with a warm light. It's on a timer. She goes to the bathroom. When she gets in the bathroom, motion sensor there, lights up the toilet. She does her business. She walks back, gets in bed, and all the lights go off. All automatic. $30, and I've reduced her risk of falls, which, by the way, is how my dad died. My dad fell, broke his hip, goes in a nursing home, and dies a year and a half later. So it's the greatest comorbidity factor. So for those of you who know elderly people, you can get that kit, and it'll reduce that risk significantly. Next, comfortable bedding, obviously, and go to sleep and wake using your internal alarm clock. This is easier for some than others. When you're getting enough sleep, you will naturally wake up at the same time when you need to. If you got to use an alarm clock, this is terrible, and I would recommend you using an alarm clock because you guys have to get up for work in case you oversleep. But go to bed earlier and you're not going to have that issue. So, optional. This is tougher. Don't go to bed on an empty or a full stomach. Both are bad. No caffeine 8 hours before you go to bed. Limit booze before bedtime. Wine has this chemical in it called resveratrol. Resveratrol, you start to go to sleep because you're drowsy from the wine, and then resveratrol wakes you up. That's why you wake up at 3 in the morning when you've been drinking all night, right? So limit that booze. Limit that booze before bedtime. Also, what's one of the main reasons for hangovers? Anybody? Dehydration. Why? Your body's trying to flush out that alcohol, right? It's trying to get rid of it. What happens when you're dehydrated to your body? Your natural response is your heart starts pumping. It's a fear response that your body has. It says, holy crap, we got to get some water. And your heart starts pumping, and your adrenaline starts flowing. That's what's causing the heart starting to pump. And now you're up at 3 in the morning. You can't get back to sleep because that heart's going because you dehydrated yourself. So every drink you have, drink a glass of water. You'll be in the bathroom the whole time, and finally you'll stop drinking. And it's not good for you, I'm telling you. Okay, limit exercise before bedtime. That wakes you up. Now, long term, you can get, right now, they're kind of pricey, so you might not want to do it. You can do it 2 ways. You can put incandescents in your bedroom, or you can put programmable lights in your bedroom, your bathroom, and your kitchen that are controlled off your phone. They're about $40 each, so they're not cheap. But they program off your phone. They give you that blue light in the morning. They give you that warm light at night so that you can relax and go to bed. There's another option, which is a wake-up light. The Philips wake-up light is $200. I found one online for $20. And that wake-up light, instead of waking you up with a right, which everybody hates. How many hate that noise? Right? Everybody hates that alarm clock when it goes off. This thing, 20 minutes before you're supposed to wake up, starts putting on blue light. This thing was $20. Freaking miracle. $20, it wakes you up with the blue light. You don't have the driving you nuts, and you feel better. So, how many of you camp? We got like 4 people and 5 people in the whole place. Camping is one of the best things you can do to reset that body clock. There's this thing called social jet lag, and that's when your schedule doesn't match your work schedule. doesn't match your church schedule, doesn't match the way that you want to live your life, that thing is reset by a week in camping, where it's just their natural sleep-wake cycle with what the sun is doing.